let's talk about the cheeky little creatures at number 10. Fighting like rats in a sack, Michael Crick. A bad grey at the office, Sir Keir. Who do we blame for this debacle?
Well, ultimately, responsibility lies with the Prime Minister for not thinking through how he was going to run Downing Street. I'm not sure the solution that has been produced out of this, that Morgan McSweeney is now the Chief of Staff, I'm not sure that's the answer. Morgan McSweeney may be a brilliant campaigner and won the extraordinary election result, but what you need is somebody who knows how government works and the inner workings of Whitehall. Sue Gray had that. The trouble is that Sue Gray didn't have the political instincts as to, what would go, how the public would react, how Labour MPs, how Labour members would react. Now, you need somebody who combines all of that. It's rare to find people like that.
And McSweeney is a journalist as well. Not that there's anything wrong with being a journalist.
Well, we all
but that's not the it's not the political skill necessarily that's best for being Chief of Staff.
Well, he'll get the messaging right, won't he?
He
and
may
there'll
get
probably be few of these gaffes and PR own goals.
It depends on whether, of course, the policies are determined by Keir Starmer or by McSweeney. Because at the end of the day, it's Starmer and his cronies, Rachel Reeves and whoever, and Lammy, who are actually making the policies. And as Suzanne said, these are all politics of envy without any practical thought as to what was going to actually happen by doing them.
They just seem to be tone deaf. So
Won't that political nous come from McSweeney, this new figure, who's the great Svengali of elections?
Well, supposedly, but as I said earlier, he could be the best Svengali of elections in the world, but ultimately he didn't win the election. The Tories lost it, I'm afraid,
That's
Michael.
Right. No, that's absolutely right. Only 21% of those people
actually voted for them.
Who actually could vote voted for Labour. What it was a massive vote against the Tories. It was no vote for the Labour Party. That's why they could get away with just saying change, 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 and not actually talking about any policy.
There hasn't actually been much change in lots of areas either. You may think there has, but I don't.
I mean, is the Labour Party more loyal to its leaders historically than the Tories?
Yeah, I mean, it tends not to get rid of leaders in office, and not much in opposition, actually, whereas the Conservatives are slightest...
Well, they did for Tony Blair when he was still popular, despite the Iraqi war. And the point is, and I've made this point before, is parties are unstable when a large percentage of them are new intake. I think over half of all Labour MPs only got in a few months. They'll be panicking. And
not only that.
They'll be panicking in a year or two if the Labour Party and Starmer are not more popular. And at the moment, I see no signs of him becoming popular because, as I said, he's a dud. He doesn't actually, I think all three of us agree, he doesn't actually understand what people want.
And got no charisma whatsoever.
No.
And also,
when
if
can
you
we
have
discuss
400...
beavers?
We'll get to your...
When you have 410 MPs, the number that can be ministers is very few. So all the rest, many of the rest are frustrated. And actually, there are a lot of new... I think, overall, the new MPs are more able than the ones who were there before.
Oh, thank you.
Which is... no, I don't mean the ones who lost their seats. I mean the ones who survived. But Wes Streeting, I think, is the most formidable person in the cabinet.
I agree.
He's the one that...
very able.
He was expecting to be the Labour Prime Minister next, and, of course, Starmer got there first.
But he's more right-wing than I am, is Wes Streeting.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, yes.
Yes, I mean... And we've got some more news for you. The Daily Mail is this evening reporting that the King Charles, will pause his cancer treatment in order to fly to Australia for a royal visit. The 75-year-old monarch will arrive down under on October the 18th, and the Mail's royal reporter, Rebecca English, understands that doctors are happy for him to temporarily stop treatment for 11 days. It's a measure of the man, Michael, that our king, our monarch, will rather focus on his duties travelling to Australia than receive cancer treatment. His commitment to the job is supreme.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think King Charles is very different from the late Queen, but, I've met him on a few occasions. He's absolutely dedicated to the job. And when people made fun of him years ago, talking about ecology and green issues, they've all come to the fore now. So he's actually been ahead of his time. And, frankly, long may he reign.
Can we talk about the race for the Tory leadership? It's heated up a bit, hasn't it, Michael? It's got interesting.
It has. It's very interesting because, as you said earlier on, first of all, you had, I think Kemi Badenoch was way out in front. But actually, how do we make these judgments? Because although it seems now that James Cleverly is ahead, that's according to Con Home. And Con Home determines that by the number of people who actually contact them, you know, on the email listing. But, you know, I don't know. I'm not accusing, but could it be the Russians and fake names?
Oh, my goodness.
Maybe we don't know. Maybe they deliberately put James Cleverly ahead because they think he'll be an easy touch in dealing with Russia and Putin.
Well,
we don't know.
That's the case.
We don't know.
Ultimately, it's up to the MPs, isn't it? Who the final two are.
No, to the final two.
That's
And then,
right.
of course, it will be the
Members.
members.
It goes down, I think on
Members
Tuesday
don't
it
have
goes
that
down to
say.
3 and then Wednesday down to 2. Who do you
right.
think will be the last 2 on the ticket?
Well, my theory is that one of the final 2 will be Tom Tugendhat. And the reason why I believe this, and I don't think he'll win, but I think the reason for this is that there is a grouping in the Conservative Parliamentary Party called One Nation, which is, I wouldn't say to the left, but slightly more to the left than others, shall we say. And I think they will want a representative to be in the final 2. However, the general membership of the party is not of that ilk. They're more to the right. So I don't think Tom Tugendhat will become the leader. So it all depends now on who that other person will be.
So
Will it be Kemi, will it be Cleverly, or will it be Rob Jenrick?
But on the other hand, the members voted for Cameron, didn't they, rather than Davis in 2005?
Davis did very badly, though.
He threw it away with a bad speech, didn't he?
He did a very bad speech, but also David Davis hadn't made it clear what his political views were. In any event, nobody really knew.
That's true.
And
I don't think that's true.
he'd been a government whip. I remember being shoved around by David. No, I wasn't shoved
that's a bit
around,
of
but
gossip.
I remember being bullied anyway. I rather enjoyed
Were
it.
you manhandled?
I've always liked being manhandled by
Michael,
the
was this
whips.
before Me Too?
They stopped doing it with me because they knew I was enjoying it.
By the way, can I quickly ask you, do you think that Jenrick will edge it with merchandise? Because there have been some goodies at conference which
Yes,
made a bit of a
absolutely.
splash.
He had I back a Bobby J.
I want a Bobby J, isn't it?
I
Something
want
like that.
Bobby J, but he also had this marvellous thing, which is...
That, I have to
now,
say.
you've got to guess what it is. I had to pick one up. It's
I
a
know.
marvellous... Several people thought it was a shovel, but it isn't a shovel.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
And I have to say, that model is particularly useless.
Yeah, I first
That
saw
will
one of
not
those
do
at
the
your
job.
UKIP conference.
Did you really?
About 10 years ago.
So that is something for when you're delivering leaflets
Yes.
in election time. It's a thing.
You shove it through the door.
Through your letterbox.
You shove it through a
So you can
letterbox.
put it
You
in
don't
the
get your
letterbox.
fingers bitten
Yeah.
by... Because this is the
Rubbing
thing. You always
dogs.
get a huge dog hurling himself at the door and
do.
taking your fingers off. Or you end up scratching, because now...
But that is
letterboxes...
too
I'm a
big.
great believer, by the way. I've just got to say this. I am a great supporter, ever since putting leaflets in through people's doors, of the Post Office Union. Because the Post Office Workers
Oh, my
Union...
goodness.
Because
Well-
putting letters in through there... And then the worst thing are those ruddy letterboxes
bottom.
are at the bottom.
Oh, they're the
Whereas
worst.
this thing you
But
slide...
it's useless because it's too
I'm going to
big.
get my Did You Back... Sorry, this is Did You See the Massive Beaver? Which is a good political slogan, by the way.
well, that would do it.
And what
beaver in your life,
what
have you?
you do is
my goodness.
you do it and you
Lost control,
shove
like
it,
you.
shove it through the door. Oh, the camera's not on. You're trying to demonstrate it here, and it
But you know,
pops out.
You know the other purpose of this?
Fabulous,
It
fabulous work.
stops your opponents going around and taking leaflets out of letterboxes, which has been known to
I'm
happen.
glad you clarified what the purpose of that device is.
You don't need
'cause
that. You just need a
thought-
wooden spoon, actually.
Well,
Yeah,
Get a
wooden
spoon's
spoon. I
much
always
better.
forget them.
That's too big.
Briefly, would you like to see wild rodents? What are they called? Beavers. Would you like a return to beaver?
Yeah, I'd love to see
do you like
giant
beaver? Are you-
I'm heavily into beavers. But I would also, if I had my way, and that's why I'm not standing for the leadership of the party, I'd bring back bears.
And on that note,
House bells.